holding on. It was like a school, let me hard on. Straight speak, truth in the sky. Open your eyes, see who lies. See my morning clock, system trying to break them. Snowing life is every move goes straight. And things they try to circle, but what's good, y'all? We have another presentation for y'all today. You feel me? Check me out now. This presentation for today is called The Initiate's Path, a structured journey of self. This is part one, the thresholds. Everybody go ahead and get in here, and we gonna get it cracking. Your mind, the wings, the hustle part, don't leave your soul behind. Out on the stereo ring, digits of the past. Every rhyme accomplished, every verse meant to last. Back set, check the streets, but honor the grind. I sit my head and let the wisdom unwind. Every clock pulse, every corner breathe. Every choice you make, the world perceive. Street TV, I get on wisdom. Me, let it breathe. It quick weeks, round with us. Oh, the road, and watch the school every corner. Street TV, screw in the sky. Open your eyes and see the light. See my home and dark system trying to break it. Open down and play every move goes steep. Yeah. All right, y'all, we finna start this presentation. Just give me a second. All right, now that everybody in here, let's get into it. Initiate's Path, a structural journey of self, part one, the threshold. The Initiate's Path, a structural journey of self, part one, introduction to thresholds. 3 quiet gateways mark the beginning. The call, when old explanations start working. The fracture, when the inner truth and outer life misalign. The unlearning, when accumulated knowledge becomes the obstacle. These are not crises, they are structural necessities on the path to coherent selfhood. Are you feeling them? The call, when the old explanations start working. The call does not arrive as inspiration. It arrives as dissatisfaction you can't name. Not sadness, not failure, just the quiet knowing that once made sense doesn't anymore. You start noticing things like answers that used to calm you. Answers that used to calm you now feel thin. Systems you mastered feel hollow. Conversations repeat, but nothing moves. Success without substance tastes like cardboard. This is not rebellion. This is perception outgrowing its container. The call is a pressure, differential inside consciousness. Your inner coherence begins to exceed the frameworks you were handed. Cultural narratives, family definitions of a good life, hustle myths, spiritual slogans, intellectual identities. Nothing is wrong with them. They're just too small now. The call doesn't tell you where to go. It only makes staying unbearable. What the call is not, let's be clear, because this is where many lie to themselves. The call is not wanting to be special, wanting to escape responsibility, wanting to feel powerful, wanting to be seen as a weight.
Those are responses to the call, not the call itself. The real call is quieter and more dangerous. I can't pretend this is enough anymore. The first is an initiatory test. At this stage, nothing external changes. Your life may look fine, job intact, relationships intact, routine intact, but internally, a fracture has formed between what you perform and what you know. This is the first test. Will you numb it or listen? Most people numb it. They stay busy, accumulate labels, borrow certainty, romanticize ignorance. Initiates don't feel stronger here. They feel lonelier without knowing why. The call often disguises itself as restlessness, irritation with shallow talk, a pull toward silence, a hunger for depth without a clear object. This is not depression. This is orientation recalibrating. The inner compass has shifted, but the map hasn't updated yet. The unspoken truth. Here's what no one says out loud. The call doesn't care if you answer it. Reality will keep moving either way, but you will know. And once you know, you can't unknow. That knowing is the seed of the path. The call is not an invitation, it is a notification. The fracture, when what you know and how you live can no longer coexist. The fracture is not dramatic, it is structural. It happens when the inner truth you touched during the call begins to interfere with your ability to function inside on old rules. You don't fall apart all at once, you misalign. What the fracture feels like, you start experiencing things that don't make sense to the outside world. Motivation collapses for things you once chased hard. Tolerance drops for environments you once survived easily. Masks become heavier, not lighter. You feel like you're acting in a life you already outgrew. Nothing bad had happened, but everything feels off by a degree that matters. This is not weakness. This is truth creating torque. The internal split. The fracture is the most the fracture is the moment you realize the person you appear to be can no longer house who you are becoming. The language you can't express what you now perceive. The pace of the world feels mistuned to your nervous system. So you split, not into madness, but into layers. One layer performs, one layer observes, one layer withdraws. This is where many think something is wrong with them. Nothing is wrong, something is breaking open. Social fallout. The fracture doesn't ask permission before touching your relationships. You may notice people misunderstanding you faster than before. Support becoming conditional. Familiar spaces feeling strangely hostile. Beings labeled different, distant, or changed. And they're right, you have changed, not in personality and alignment. The pain nobody warned you about. Here's the part that blindsides most people. You don't just lose things, you lose certainty. Old goals lose gravity. Old fears stop working. Old rewards don't motivate. You are no longer feeling anchored to the old world, but not yet rooted in the new one. This in between is the fracture. The second initiatory test. The test here is brutal and quiet. Will you try to repair the old structure or let it break clean? Over intellectualizing, rebranding the same life, calling discomfort growth while changing nothing, chasing quick meaning. Initiation requires loss without replacement. This is where integrity is forged or abandoned. The hidden function. The fracture is a filter. It removes false momentum, borrowed ambition, inherited definitions of success. What remains is rare, unadorned awareness, uncomfortable, unimpressive, unavoidable. The fracture does not destroy you. It reveals what cannot go with you. The unlearning, when what you know becomes the obstacle. The unlearning is not about adding wisdom. It is about removing interference. Knowledge that once empowered now constraints, explanations that once clarified now distort, certainty that once stabilized now suffocate. This is the moment you realize understanding is not the same as seeing. Learning gives identity. Unlearning takes it away. You are not just releasing ideas, you are releasing the version of yourself that was built around them, the informed self, the aware self, the ahead of the curve self. Those ideas resist death. They argue, they spiritualize, they intellectualize, but they cannot pass through the next gate. The collapse of borrowed lenses. Unlearning begins when you notice you quote more than you experience, you explain more than you embody, you label more than you listen. Frameworks start to feel like filters. Language starts to feel like compression. Even spiritual systems feel rehearsed. This is not cynicism. This is discernment sharpening. The initiate's paradox. Here's the paradox that breaks most people. The more you know, the harder it becomes to perceive freshly. Unlearning is the act of standing naked before reality, without theory rushing in to protect you. No map, no commentary, no authority to lean on, just perception. Silence as a teacher. At this stage, silence gets louder, solitude becomes necessary, overstimulation feels violent. You may feel less interesting to others. Your urge to explain fades. Your appetite for argument dies. This is not withdrawal. This is signal purification. The third initiatory test. The test here is subtle. Can you not knowing without panicking? Most people most people rush to refill the space. No new ideologies, new teachers, new aesthetics, new language for the same old certainty. Initiates stay empty long enough for something real to arrive. What actually remains after sufficient unlearning, what's left is not ignorance. It is direct perception, clean attention, sensitivity to coherence and distortion, an internal no that activates instantly. You stop asking, what should I think? And you start asking, what is actually happening? Unlearning is not forgetting, it is a remembering without distortion. The initiate's path, a structural journey of self part one is complete. The thresholds and key revelations we so far through this whole part one, I should say, the call arrives as quiet dissatisfaction, a notification, not an invitation. The fracture is structural misalignment, revealing what cannot go with you. Unlearning is removing interference, restoring direct, undistorted perception. These thresholds are not punishment, they are purification. You have been called, you have been fractured, and you have begun to unlearn. The paths continue, but only what is essential may pass. Thank you for crossing these gateways with me. I appreciate y'all for being here with me. If you want to check out my other presentations, you are very much welcome to. I have another presentation called Energy is Not What You've Been Told, 3 parts to it. And there's going to be 2 parts to this presentation. Part 2 is coming out soon. And I show gratitude.